Welcome back to Leveraging Success, the podcast where we explore how to work less, make more, and with the freedom you create, you'll live the life God made you for. I'm your host, Jeff Gerhardt. My guest today is someone I've traveled the world with, from Saudi Arabia to Israel, Turkey, Lebanon, and beyond. Josh Doyle is the co-founder of Uncharted Adventures, a company he and his brother Tommy launched in 2020 that's now sending teams to some of the most meaningful destinations on the planet. He's also the host of the No Longer Nomads podcast and the son of Tom Doyle, the man I've called the Indiana Jones of the Middle East. In this conversation, Josh and I get into something every business owner and partnership wrestles with. When do you stop bootstrapping and start building? We talk about the gap between where you are and where you want to be a year from now, the real cost of staying the same, how to cast vision to a partner who processes risk differently than you do, and what it actually takes to operate inside your natural gifting instead of grinding against it. We'll also share some of the details about a trip Josh, Tom, Bob, and Sherry Shank, Heather, and I are leading to Israel this October. 10 days that, if you're anything like the hundreds of people we've watched go before you, could change the trajectory of your life. Stick around. There's a lot here. Let's get into it. So, Josh, let's talk about you. Let me ask you this question and just come out with what would be your answer to the question. What would be max value for our time together on this podcast? What would serve you most?
Yeah, there's a couple plates spinning at the moment. One of them is a company that my brother and I started called Uncharted Adventures. We started it in 2020. You were there, Jeff, and actually you gave us that nudge. And here we are 6 years later, and it's incredible to see the doors that God has opened through the business. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's a place I'd love to start. Even I host a podcast called No Longer Nomads, which is also a plate that I'm spinning and very passionate and love to talk through that too. So wherever you want to take it, but those are two areas I immediately off the bat think of.
Let's talk about Uncharted Adventures. What's the big question that's sitting on your mind right now around the company that you started there?
So question, kind of thinking goal, or just what are we trying to solve, or what are you thinking there?
Yeah, what would serve you most in terms of going after talking about Uncharted Adventures? Is
Yeah.
there a goal, an issue, a challenge, a big thought as the leader of the organization that
Yeah.
you're sitting with?
Yeah, that's great. So there's a lot, as building a business is like a puzzle. It's just, where do we go here? Do we have people in the right seats? And then, with everything going on in Israel and the Middle East, it's about, I'd say probably 90% of our business goes there. And so just kind of navigating that minefield, right? You see some other companies that navigate it really well. And we're trying to determine, how can we also serve our clients? How can we also serve our people best, to be able to get them out there and be able to keep going like some of these other quote unquote competitors. So that's one, I'd say right off the bat. People in the right seats as well. That's always, I've learned a lot from you on that, Jeff, is just making sure people are all rowing in the same direction and they're in the right seat. And so I'd say, like, off the bat, Tommy and I, we run the company together. Tommy, how do we define some of those roles even as we continue to grow and there's more opportunity and capacity? How do we define those roles without having the lines get grayer and grayer?
Okay. So maybe could you talk a little bit about the vision for the two of you? If you were both very successful in the roles that you have, what would that look like?
Yeah. So Tommy is tremendous he's tremendous at a lot of things. He keeps it rolling. He's great at operations, finance. He didn't study finance, but each trip, as you know, it could be, for one person, it could be $4,000 trip, 4,000 plus. And some of these trips have 45 people. We have a trip this fall that's got 200 people. And so each trip in and of itself is its own little mini business, And so he didn't study finance, but he kind of backed his way into it, and he's fantastic at it. I mean, he's just so good. So he does a lot. I mean, he's really good with client success. He's good with, uh, you know, building the trip, logistics, and kind of integration, I would say. And then where I would say I'm better at some like naturally and some stuff, not better than him, just better in my own, it sounded weird, not better than him. I'd say we both share this pretty well. But I like to kind of be more of the communicator, talking to folks, painting the picture of the trip, what they're going to get. And so there's that. I also really enjoy client success, making sure we're serving them well, jumping on the phone if somebody gets hung up with something. Where I really struggle is you just got to do it. And so I do it, and I'm not the best at it. But some of the little details, just on the spreadsheets all day, I would say I'm not the best there. And so that would, I think Tommy and I work well. We kind of pull each other in opposite directions. We have different gifts and talents, and it's cool to see how the Lord wired us that way. But really, it is like a ping pong, match back and forth. We just feel like if he's working on something, hey, Tommy's got this, he can own it. And then for me, I'm like, I feel like this is more my wheelhouse. I can own it. And so I think naturally, Jeff, we've fallen into these spaces where we can operate and we can use our gifts and strengths relatively, naturally, I'd say, but always willing to learn as we're getting more business and more opportunities. The lines can get grayer, right? And how do we stick true? How do we, also look at the next level? How do we look at that next level of bringing someone else on to help out? Anyway, so I'm kind of a few things I threw at you there, but I'd say that's kind of the high level right there.
Yeah, I've watched the two of you work together, and I think you're a great team. But so there's something in there, perhaps, just to explore, which is um, what between you is not working, or what's the main complaint, maybe, of where there's a gap between what you're hoping for and what's really happening in your roles today?
Sure. I think what's challenging is these trips can be a year to 15 months out before we close them. So, this trip with 200 people, we don't get to see any of that profit until that trip is closed. So what makes it challenging is when our plates are extremely full, the both of us, it's, do we consider bringing someone on? And we've actually had some people on staff, and actually, it's funny, Jeff, is on October 7th, October 5th, we were going to hire someone full time. And then on October 6th, the war broke out in Israel. And so we didn't bring them on. But anyway, so the hardest thing is just when do we take that next step? We've had people on retainer. I'd say that has been the biggest probably bottleneck is we're both so jammed up. And as we get more and more business, we still don't close those out for 12 months. It's harder to think about bringing someone on if we haven't closed those trips because that trip could get disrupted. Like we've had some stuff happen with this Iranian conflict. So that I would say is the biggest probably obstacle that we face is we feel at times when our hair's on fire in a good way, it's incredible. We got business and we're excited for that. It's just how can we go further faster if we have more people? And when do we wait to bring them on versus waiting for some of these trips to close? Do we step out in faith? So that's kind of where I'd go.
Yeah. So I'll just put on my consultant hat for a second and say there's always risk. There's risk in all of this in a way with which you're betting on something. But
Sure.
the bet is to try to find what are we trying to grow to, and what are we and if we were to do this and it were to go well, how could we commit to it to see the growth, right? So there's no control of the outcome, but there is an ability to commit to a vision that you could have and bring someone along with you in that with the possibility that it could fail. So
Sure.
if failure was not the goal, nor was it what you were committed to, could you fail and it still be worth it?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I love what you said. It is about risk always. And I think I'd be curious what you think on this. when you have people on a team that maybe some are a little bit more risk adverse than others? Is there maybe a simple way to go through some of those, whether it's say like through some of those discussions? What does that look like when maybe one's a little more risk adverse and one's ready to like, let's go charge? I'd be curious to hear your thoughts there as well, just as, with that consultant hat on, just to navigate some of those conversations out of respect, and also, what's best for the business and for each other. And just, full transparency. Tommy and I work great together, and we've had very good conversations. And this, I wouldn't say is an issue. It's just more of when is the right time? When it would be the right time. We don't want to, get too ahead of ourselves. And so, yeah, it's just kind of coming down to what's a good exercise to where we could navigate this and come out on the other side.
Yeah. So first of all, we're acclimated to our existing risk. In other words, if I said to you, which just feels, not is, but feels more risky, getting in your car and driving somewhere, or getting in a plane and flying somewhere, you would say,
Getting in the car for sure.
yeah, because it is, right? But where do people pray the most? In a plane,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because a little shake on a plane. By the way, not going to chase this story, but your dad and I happen to have the worst plane ride I've ever experienced in my life. I actually thought I was going to die. A real bad plane flight. But you can have some turbulence and think I'm going to die. I'm going to die,
Yeah.
and you get into prayer, right? So we feel risk highest in the plane, but you're right. Like, my risk is highest in the car. But what am I going to do once, twice, three times in a day? I'm going to go get in my car and drive somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm acclimated to that. I don't fret. I rarely pray unless I'm about to get into an accident, right? So I'm just not dealing. So I'm acclimated to the risk. Why am I bringing that up? Well, we're acclimated to our existing circumstances that have risk already attached to them. Like,
Yeah.
there's a risk for you not hiring someone just as much as there is hiring someone. So
Love that.
what is the attached risk to, if we do this, who are we going to be a year from now? Who are we going to
Sure.
be 3 years from now? And here's another story. I remember after the first year of being the CEO of Priority Living, I told someone, I don't ever want to have that year again.
Hmm.
And then, without even thinking about it, I changed almost nothing. And literally at the end of the year, to the same person, I said, I don't want to ever have that year again. 2 years in a row, I said that. And he said to me, Jeff, do you realize you said those words to me last year? And it was just like, all of a sudden I woke up and I thought, I'm living the same thing and expecting different results. We can be full up with so many things we're trying to carry. But the book that came to me almost at the same time that was beginning of some unlocks was a book called Who Not How. And for me, as an admitted control freak and a recovering control freak, I like to believe that I'm the only one that can do this. But then when I open up to the ability to bring other people in, yes, it's a risk, but I play with the same risk by not making the choice. I play with an even higher risk when I invest money in my, retirement funds and things like that.
Sure.
So we, we think the stock market's risk is normal, but it's much higher than being involved with a human who we could cast vision for, that we could grow with. So it's a conversation to have of, who will we be if we change nothing a year from now?
That's
Will
so
we be
good.
living Groundhog's Day, or who would we be if we added someone, and what could be the best case outcome? So
Hmm.
hearing it like that, um, where do you think your gaps are in terms of what you need, or the who you need to help you propel to the next level?
Yeah, I'd say someone that could jump in to help out with admin, just really jumping in to help out teams. If, like I was saying, we got this team of 200, that could be 200 different requests on what seat they want on the flight. That could be 200 requests on what they want to eat. when they're in location, or, just a lot of the things that come up. And so at the end of the day, that's just one trip. And if we have 4 this fall, then we just feel a little bit thinned out there. So I would say, customer service, kind of admin help would be one gap, Jeff. The other one I would say is finance. Tommy is definitely, he's got a lot on his plate there. And at times I'm looking at him going, I don't know how you can do this. It's incredible. I mean, each person, they need to invoice each person. You got to figure out every little, if they want this add-on or that. And it's very nuanced to each person and tailored to them. So he does a fantastic job. And so as you say this, so Jeff, I'm going, man, it seems like it would be a great opportunity. So a year from now, we're not still in the same place. We're positioned well, praise the Lord. I feel like with everything going on with the Iranian conflict, we had to shut down some trips this spring, which is rough. We have a team leaving in a week here, which is very exciting. So, we just want to step out in faith. And I think, hearing you speak, that, gosh, it would be great to not be in this place a year from now, right? Because we're going, well, you just wait. Well, but yeah.
Well, as they say, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago or today.
Or today, yeah. I
Yeah.
love it.
So let's play with that a little bit. Let's go to a year from now. It's spring of 27. You and I are talking again, and I ask you, Josh, what happened in the last year? And you say, Jeff, sit down. It was the best year of my life. I can't believe all these things happened. And you went after some of these things we've been talking about. What happened? And speak to me in past tense, if you would, Joshua.
Past tense,
Let's live in that moment a year from now. Speak to me in past tense. What happened that went fantastically well?
In a perfect world, this year, looking back, we brought some folks on to help alleviate the load, and it helped us to go after people that we've been wanting to consider bringing on trips for a long time. We have a list of 50 plus people that are warm leads that we were able to really go after and talk to these new clients and bring some on. And so to me, making a gap to get more help us go further faster. And so that was a key step. We now have more trips on the books, because we have more bandwidth internally as a team to handle more workload. And so this past year was a success because we were able to get more help to go further faster, to contact some of the big fish that are on our list. And it was because I went on a podcast called Leveraging Success by Jeff Gerhardt.
Too much credit. Okay, so fantastic. Let's get a little more specific together. What I
Sure.
want to invite you to say is, when did it happen and how much? Because you talk about more leads that closed, more bookings, more bandwidth. Help me get into, when did it happen over this last year that it happened, speaking in past tense, and how much? How big was it?
How big, as in like
How
teams
could we quantify
added?
it?
Can you quantify it?
Quantify
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think ideally last summer when we brought someone on was a time when we really felt like we were positioned well. We made the jump to bring folks on and on our team. And that's when we were able to see just a surge in bringing folks on for trips. And with that, to quantify the results, we were doing about 10 trips a year. We're now scheduled to do about double. We're scheduled to do, I'd say double. The results are the doors that are open. The people that we were able to consider, these were dream guests that we had 2 years ago. Now we've been able to have them a conversation, open up a trip with them, where we didn't have the bandwidth to go after some of these folks before. So I would quantify that by saying our business looks completely different from the outside as we're able to handle more volume. We're able to communicate faster. We're able to send teams out there. And really, for me, I would say I was able to jump into my role. Tom was able to jump into his role naturally, or I could go and talk to clients and go after client success and feel like I have more time and bandwidth to do that. whereas in the past I didn't. So that is success that you may not show up on the bottom line, but to me, that is something that it's hard to look at some of those sheets with the warm leads for going, oh, I wish we could be talking to these big fish, but we just don't have the capacity at the moment. So to be able to have that success to go after that list and spend time there freely to bring these people on, paint the vision, we're positioned in a much better spot now.
Okay, so far specifically, this last summer you hired some people, and that specifically allowed you to get double the trips, 20 trips on the books for the year. You were able to chase after some of the leads. You spoke towards maybe some freedoms that started to happen as a result. What were some of those freedoms?
Yeah, it just gave us the opportunity to operate within our natural giftings. So some of those freedoms would be able to pick up the phone call, talk with folks at length, paint a trip, paint the vision, the excitement, but also to move them on a continuum with kind of client success and handle that with care. Whereas before, we just felt like we were able to do this, but really jammed up with other work and just plates were spinning and just didn't have the bandwidth. So that's one area. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so let's think if this is the realm of possibility. If we were just to draw a circle and say, this is the realm of possibility for me. If it was in the center of the circle, it's gonna happen. But the further I move towards the outside of my realm of possibility, it's less possible. And if I were to go outside that circle, it seems improbable, but it would be thrilling if it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And we were to say that line from the center of the circle, really gonna happen, high chance is gonna happen to the outside of that circle, and put that on a continuum from 1 in the center to 10 on the outside. It's improbable but thrilling. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put this vision that you've got here for a year from now?
For me, that's a 10. For me, that's the dream to be able to offload some of the, what we talked about previously, some of the just kind of admin, customer service stuff. Just really, you're stuck on a spreadsheet most of the day when I would love to be painting the vision, talking to people that are on our list. And so for me, that is excitement. That brings joy and happiness. I feel like I'm in my natural wheelhouse then. And to be able to say, hey, this is this incredible person from this incredible church or this podcast or author, this is where they want to go, this is what they want to do, and have the work internally they can then take that, paint the dream trip. I can come alongside that pastor, that host, whoever, and make sure that trip is 10 out of 10. We have been positioned over the last 6 years to provide opportunities and events that truly I believe no one else is doing out in Israel and Greece and Turkey, Saudi Arabia. Some of these things that we're going to be doing on this trip. I mean, truly, you could go on Google and pick any sort of tour agency to Israel, to Greece, Turkey, follow footsteps of Paul. But man, there's some stuff that we've been able to work on through the connections, through the way we're positioned. That we're doing stuff outside the box. It just is so exciting. It's so to be able to operate in your natural giftings, to me, that just is complete freedom and excitement. It breathes life. It doesn't, I know we've talked about this, Jeff, that when you don't feel like we're in a spot where we're doing everything. We're bootstrapping, whatever it is that needs to be done, we'll get it done. But if you're in your true space and you can really operate freely and you have great people that can back you, I mean, that's the rocket fuel right there. That's the excitement. That's the dream. At that point, it doesn't feel like you're going one step forward, two back, and it's just back and forth. So that to me is the dream and the excitement of just that, of what success would look like.
Okay, so what's the gap that you've got between your current reality and that vision?
I mean, I think we keep talking about that, but that really is just, some manpower, having some people internally that could truly help in some of these areas so that we could have a kind of a free reign to go out and get some more business. The great thing, Jeff, is, all these people on that list, I'm in, let's do it, and so it's just finding some of the bandwidth to be able to take on that load. I will say that, and Tommy and I, we have done sometimes 16 trips a year just between the two of us, and it's just like, we can, I feel like we can do a lot, but if we want to be able to take on more, we truly need some help in that area. And so I'm kind of going back to the same thing as the gap there, Jeff, but there's definitely other things that could make that come to fruition too. Another big one would be finance, just alleviate some of that stress too from Tommy so he can help operate and some of the high level stuff as well.
So the gap, what's keeping you from doing it right now?
Yes. I'd say bringing folks on just to help out.
Well, so if you know that is the answer, why wouldn't you take that choice
risk.
or decision right now? Yeah, what's keeping you from it
Yeah.
specifically?
So, and we were kind of alluding to this a little bit. When you have some disruptions, and a trip is 12 to 15 months out, with some other businesses, some of the deals that you make, you could see that pay out within 30 days, right? We're talking 12 to 15 months before you see that cash, in your account. So that's a big risk that we were talking about. And so I do love what you're saying earlier, is that things do take risk. And to me, I'm in that camp of let's do it, obviously not to be stupid with the money and steward it well, but let's jump to that next level and bring in the right folks, and I think it could truly take us to a new place.
Sure, but you've already rationalized it as a good decision. At least to my ear, it sounds that way. And
Yeah.
you want to do it. You're entertaining the risk, but I'm still coming back to the question: what's keeping you from moving forward right now?
I think, I'd love if Tommy was here to speak into this as well. I think we're just coming at it differently. I can see it be a benefit. He sees it as well. Let's wait till we get there, and so wait till we get there. I mean, let's wait until we are a little bit better. We're looking at the bottom line. It's just different kind of, I'd say, personalities. And since we're 50-50 in the business, it really is, all right, let's make sure we make this decision together. And so this is one we've been kicking around for a while, and we've got some key people in place, and just kind of making that next step, I'd say, is a risk, absolutely. But to me, that's exciting. And it is to him as well. But, it's just, I'd say that's probably what it comes down to is, as we were talking about navigating some of those conversations, what does it look like? When is the right time to bring someone on? Like, obviously he knows, I know there's always going to be risk. But what does it look like to be able to go further faster? Is that the only thing that the success if we make this idea, or does it crash and burn like we were talking about earlier? And we spread ourselves too thin with the cash we have on hand.
Yeah, but Josh, this is a beautiful conversation because we all are in partnerships, whether it's in marriage or business. There's always the strain of how am I going to be able to get my partner on the same page? And we think that is the blocker. But
Yeah,
let's stay within what's in your control
sure.
and just think for a second about who would you have to be able to see this vision come true? Who do you have to be for this vision to come true?
So who do I have to be for this vision to come through? Yeah, I mean, I would say, um, yeah, just truly being a better version of myself in a lot of areas, right? Um, I think it's easy to look at some of the harder work on the plate and just kind of go, oh, it's so hard. I gotta get to this and that. But I have this podcast and we're running this media group over here, because, and not to go back on everything I've been saying here, but sometimes it's, we can get through this season and we don't need help. There is that world as well, right? And that's a very realistic world where it's like we can hammer through this, and then you're looking at a healthier bottom line to be able to bring on someone. Maybe you do have some more trips that have closed out. So that's, I'd say, is going against what I've been saying this whole time. But just being a better version of working at the highest level and seeing things through my hard work, my brother's hard work, and maybe, seen from his perspective as well. As you're talking about partnerships. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking about putting on my consultant hat again and just saying, what if what you were doing for your partnership there was to help create a vision, right? Everybody who goes through change, they need a picture, a part, and a plan. In other words, if you're bringing this to Tommy to consider, it's to paint the picture in a detailed enough fashion with which he can see where we're going and what the outcome is going to be. And then the part and Tommy's part in this will be and how that's going to change and the plan to get to that picture in a detailed enough fashion with which you can really say A plus B should equal C. Now, we don't get to control all of our outcomes, but could you create a picture that is compelling that says, okay, Tommy, 12 months from now, we're together, we're going to have double the books on, double the trips on the books. And your part in this will be to enable someone to double your
Yeah.
capacity, and the plan will be that we will hire someone at this level and think about that we're going to make this much investment on this person, and the bottom line will grow to, and here's what we'll see pour out the other side when we have double the trips on the books. Could you build something like that and lead it so that the the vision for him, he can join you in that vision potentially,
Yeah.
and believe for that all coming together?
I love
How
it.
would that fit? How would you take that on?
I love that. Yeah. I mean, um, just painting the vision, but really getting down to the brass tacks, like you said, doubling the trips. Here's some, even putting some numbers together. And so I've done some of this stuff as well, just looking at, hey, here's a high level where we could go. Here's some of the big fish that were kind of on our plate that we probably didn't have a couple years ago. Now we would have an opportunity. So I think it's a tremendous idea to really put it down. I'd love to even ask your idea, just your input. Um, what would that look like? Is that putting the whole thing down on paper, presentation? Is it a conversation? Saying, hey, would love to just talk about here's some of the future. What would that conversation look like? Um, because I love that idea. I think it's great.
Yeah.
This is what we could do. And me, I'm kind of always head in the clouds too. Like we could do this, this, and this, where sometimes, as my dad is this way too, getting down, implementing at times can be much more like, not feeling like I'm naturally the best at putting some of that stuff pen to paper. But yeah, I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts.
It's about knowing your audience there. So, you and I, we might communicate via PowerPoint. Right? I'm going to draw some slides out and give you concepts. But if for Tommy, and because I know I'm just guessing, maybe what he really needs are numbers.
Sure.
Whether that's in spreadsheet format or something, but just really to say, how's this mathematically work?
Mm,
In other words, we're going to take this much cost on, we're going to see this much growth, and this is what's going to pour out the other side. And if you could walk him through what that is, how much stronger could his ability to comprehend and buy in, or wrestle with you through the numbers in a way with which you get better and maybe a better answer as he
sure.
joins into this vision.
I love it. I think that's tremendous. I think having the numbers is key. So that way it's not just hypothetical or what could be. But hey, if this is just looking at the raw numbers, what could happen. And Jeff, I'd say that's also pretty conservative to say at times too. I mean, truly, as you know, so many folks want to get to Israel, and so Israel does market itself, and that's kind of what I'm talking through here is mainly Israel, but Journeys of Paul, all these different tours, Saudi Arabia. Once you kind of get the vision, the excitement down, I mean, these trips really do sell themselves because it is, like we talked about at the top, a life changing journey. So back to it. Yeah, I think putting some numbers down is key, and just presenting it that way and saying, here's a vision, here's what could happen if we implement this, and it could take us to this realm.
Yeah, yeah. A formula that I think about often is that leaders times people times enterprise is a multiplier that uh, you simply can't get all on your own just as a leader.
Yeah.
And so multiplying with people, you get people who can join and actually expand possibilities. And then when the enterprise of systems and software and tools and process all keep growing, but your ability to multiply and grow your business and really I think part of your vision, which was exciting to think about even in my context, is always, can I sit in my natural gifting and not spend my day doing things that are not in my natural gifting?
Hmm.
And that's when the organization really starts to break into something that can really sustain, is that I'm more and more doing the thing that only I can do. I'm more and more contributing the thing that only I can contribute, so that what happens around here, it's getting the best of me and
Yeah.
not the thing that I'm not so good at, or every time I do it, I grumble. I don't want to grumble when I work. And so when I get more who's to join me, I'm creating a multiplier. And when I create more systems, process, software, that it just allows me again as the leader, and Tommy as a leader, and you as a leader, to be able to sit in the thing that you're best at and contribute most of. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what we all want to do at work, right? We don't want to do the work that
100%.
we're not good at.
Yeah. And
I
when
mean,
we started
you
this,
signed up
Jeff,
for
and
this for that.
100%. And when we were talking about it, in Saudi Arabia in 2020, I mean, it was 20, like very, very fresh 2020, January, February. Um, and I mean, the goal was to be able to, not have to do all of the tasks, but to offload some of that and get out there and dream and be excited and go on some of these tours as well. And so Tommy and I have talked about this recently. We're 6 years into this, and we've seen the Lord open up tremendous doors. We've been able to do some really cool things. And I do think we're at a point where we both kind of can grumble at some of the stuff, right? Because at this point, we thought we would be further along. But with October 7th, things really shifted. October 6th, October 7th was a whole different business, I should say. And so that delayed things at least by a year and a half. And then we really have been positioned well last winter. Oh my goodness, we're seeing the doors open like crazy. We just had to then postpone a bunch of our spring trips due to the Iranian conflict. So we're like, oh shoot, it's stop, go, stop, go. It's been a blessing in a way to be able to position ourselves to where we can add on different things that other people don't. But I would be lying to you if I was not bummed that we're not further along with some of this. Now, a lot of it's outside of our control. We're positioned better. We have better systems, processes. It's a tremendous. We're completely different we were than 2 years ago, right? And so we're positioned well, but absolutely, I'd be saying there are times where it's refunding people a spreadsheet of 50 people, and you're just going, oh man, I am going cross-eyed looking at all these numbers, and I wish there was someone that was better at this than I am, and could take this off my plate. And so, and Tommy I would say he'd feel the same way about things. And it's also interesting, Jeff, because when you bootstrap and you feel like we're going to do this ourselves, you can be really committed to just bootstrapping it before you want to take that next step to bring on reinforcements. And so I think there is that, almost like you romanticize a bit, like we're bootstrapping it, we're doing it, and then to a point you're like, oh man, isn't this fun? Maybe we should bring on some people. And so, hey, not complaining at all. It's a blessing. Everything is a blessing for sure that we're doing with this business. But we're at a point now where we're ready to take that next step.
There's a badge of honor for business people to say I'm busy, or I'm doing it on my own, or I don't need anybody. I think
Yeah.
whether that it's just sort of mental, for some reason. What do you think keeps people from believing in other people enough to say, "I want to hire them"? What's
Yeah.
that risk really about?
Yeah. I mean, I think I immediately go to someone is maybe not willing to give up control of things because I do it the way that I like to do it. And if somebody else takes on this task, they may do it incorrectly, or I've got to train them, and to train them up requires so much bandwidth. And, even if I train them, I still feel like I could be doing it a certain way. I think, there's a book that you gave me a while ago called Rocket Fuel. And truly, it's that CEO that does not want to give up, stuff off of their plate because they think they can do it better, and they can, you know, hey, if I bring someone on, they can't do it to my level, and they don't know the clients the way I know them. And while that's true, yes, absolutely. Um, there does need to be a point where you do give up some of these things from your plate so you can train people up. There's a book I read, the guy who started Tom's Shoes, and there was someone that he hired that had a catastrophic mistake, and it cost them tens of thousands of dollars. And at a point when they were growing where it really did impact them greatly. And instead of him firing that person on the spot, he went and talked to him and said, "Hey, this is what you did. You did this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. We're going to train you up to be better in this area, this area, this area." Well, that person went on to be one of their VPs of whatever and had helped explode the company. Where, like, if they did fire them, that's a quick, easy thing to do. It's a quick fix, but then you got to bring someone else in to help fill in the gap. That could happen again, So I look at some of those lessons too, and I think, yes, it's hard to give up some of these things, but when you do, and you have someone that can fail, to me, that's an opportunity to speak into that person and say, "Hey, let's grow here. This is what happened." We had an instance this morning where there were a couple drop balls with someone we kind of have that's helping remotely. And so, just kind of, I'm going off on a little tangent here, but I think there's opportunity for CEOs, leaders to give stuff away. And if there's an issue, if things go wrong, I mean, I think that is an opportunity. I look at it that way. I don't look at it as, that Tom's guy that, hey, $10,000+ that you lost on one, error, you're gone, which is corporate America, happens all the time, versus this is someone we believe in, we want to invest in, and hey, this was a brutal hit for the company. This is what happened, but we're going to make sure it doesn't happen again because we're gonna do this the right way next time.
Yeah, there's a lot of hard things around people.
Yeah,
And we'd love to, unfortunately, imagine people like AI or software or something where it's like, I just put you in place and everything's supposed to work. How come you can't read my mind? You should already be able to do this. And then we need to have hard conversations. And so the hard things keep us from that. And I think that this is a culture that's led us to a gig economy where it's sort of like, I'd rather be a 1099 with a lot of people than dedicated to one company, because then
yeah,
all the bad stories of corporate America that come to us and we think, oh, bad things are going to happen. But in these small businesses, we can act more like family. We
yeah,
can talk what's really going on. We can say, just like you said with Tom's, is to say, here's the issue, and I want to bring this to your attention because I want you to be able to grow, and because I care about you, and I'm here to develop you. So there is all sorts of not only investment risk, emotional risk
yeah,
that people may be dealing with. And so the willingness to enter in and believe that this is going to be messy at times, but I'm committed to you and I'm going to help you, is what can create incredible companies with
yeah,
incredibly committed people to a mission that you're on. So
yeah,
this is what we're all juggling with.
yeah. I love that. And I think, it can be easy to be in the mindset when you bring people on, what can they do for our business? But I think reframing that is, like, we have a media team and we've got some people that work under me that truly every year I'm saying, what do you want to see on your plate to grow in? What's an area in your skill, whether it's producing, whether it's post production, whether it's, being a director, where do you want to see a different area is that you want to really truly grow. I think as leaders, we have an opportunity to really not think of what can we get from these people for my company, my blah blah blah, but how can I, you know, like you said, how can we grow this person? How can we develop this person? Whether they're with us long term or they go somewhere else, can we put them in a better position to go into that other job because of the way that we were to, you know, really give life into them and try to get them to grow in some areas. And so every year on our team, we try to look at some weaknesses. Me too. Where can we all grow? You know, where can you grow? Where are some areas you would like to grow? And so I truly look at it that way too, is how can we breathe life into these people? So it's not of what can I get from them? It's a two-way transaction, but also what can I give you? What do you need from me so that we can see you grow, whether it's with us long-term or someone else, you're set up for better success.
Well, Josh, this has been a really helpful conversation for, I think, for me, for us, and for those who are listening, because everyone's dealing with the same sort of challenges of I've got a partner and I need to work with this partner to be able to get on the same page towards what are we investing in, what are we risking in, and how do we move the needle? Who do I need to become to be able to be the leader that allows for that to happen? How do we process risk? And then what does it look like to develop people? All of these are
Yeah.
commitments that we're after, but we can get stuck if we don't ever risk or we don't allow other who's to come around us to multiply the enterprise and the opportunity that God's given us. So thanks for wrestling with this with me and opening up about it. You have an amazing organization. I highly recommend Uncharted Adventures. Of course, come with us to Israel. Uh, Josh and Tom and Doyle and I and Bob and Sherry Shank are going to be there. It's going to be an incredible 10 days in the Holy Land. You won't want to miss it, but engage with Uncharted Adventures if you're thinking about getting a trip to the Middle East together, and check out Josh's incredible podcast, No Longer Nomads. Josh, you've got on an ongoing basis incredible guests and great conversations going on there. Great content. Josh, it's great to be able to be with you like this. Man, we have been able to be all over the world together, from Saudi Arabia to Israel to Turkey to Lebanon and beyond. Let me just put it to all of you this way. Josh and I have hatched a plan for an amazing trip to Israel in October. You're going to want to join us. It's going to be incredible. Tom Doyle is going to be leading the trip. And as I like to tell people, he's the Indiana Jones of the Middle East.
That's right.
And he's going to be taking us on an incredible trip. Josh and team have organized it and will be facilitating it. In the show notes for today is a link to be able to register to get more information. We'd love to have you come on it. Josh, every time that I go to Israel, I find something new. It's like not only does the Bible come alive, but my heart comes alive.
Yes.
With all the people that you get to do this with, what are some of the things or stories that you've had or experiences where people have gone and it's just been incredible for them?
I mean, Israel truly is like it's our spiritual home. So when you go there, I think one of the most common things we hear people say is like, I feel like I'm at home. And, you know, you look at the headlines and it looks like we're just, you know, why would we go to Israel? It looks like a horrible time to go. And that's even before October 7th. I'm even at before this October 7th as well. Like all these different events that before or after, it's like people are going, why would you want to go to Israel? It's dangerous. You look at the headlines, it's rough. And it just seems like, you know, kind of not smart to do, you know, put yourself out there. But when people get there, it's a very safe place. I mean, I've been there close to 40 times, and truly it is a remarkable place. It's safe, like I was saying. Inside the country, you feel very safe. Like even if there's a war going on in the south, and we went after October 7th, you don't even feel anything in the country. Now, I'm not doing the best job promoting the trip, but I will say we are sending teams there right now, and we've had teams go. We've gone after October 7th, and they love it. What I love about it, Jeff, is that people will say it changed the trajectory of my life. We've had people go, whether they're in their 20s up to their 60s, and they're like, hey, this did something deeply in me. I've been reading about these places for years and years and years, And now I actually get to see it. So when they come home, they get to read these stories and say, I can actually picture where Jesus was when this happened. Or I can picture this miracle because I was at that spot. So it truly is remarkable. My dad, just a little thing there. He's been, I think, over 100 times, Jeff. And truly, he is an encyclopedia over there. He's so inspirational, as you know, wonderful storyteller. I mean, he's got a line of people that want to go with him. And so this is a tremendous opportunity for you guys. Very excited and can't wait to see what happens.
Now, to those of you listening, you may be thinking, is this just going to be one long promotional podcast? No, but I had to go there because, as Josh said, it changed his life. It changed my life. I
Yeah.
remember when I first went there, we just said yes sort of on a whim. It was our 20th wedding anniversary, so we thought, we'll just go to Israel. Sure, why not? That'll be a great way to celebrate it. And did not know how much of our life trajectory was gonna be impacted by it. So
Yeah.
you're right. I don't know anybody that doesn't come back from an Israel trip and say, "It changed me. It was incredible." So
Yeah.
we'll love to have people come along with us. It's gonna be amazing. Thanks a lot for spending some
Thank you.
time with me here today.
Jeff, thanks so much. It was a pleasure.
That's a wrap on my conversation with Josh Doyle. If something Josh said landed for you today, whether it's the question of who you'd need to become to see your vision come true, the realization that staying the same carries its own kind of risk, or the reminder that leadership times people times enterprise is a multiplier you can't access alone, I'd encourage you to sit with it this week. What do you need to stop bootstrapping and start building? A few quick things before we go. First, the Israel trip, October, 10 days in the Holy Land with Tom Doyle, Josh, Bob and Sherry Shank, my wife Heather, and me. And every time I go, I find something new. The Bible comes alive, and so does my heart. The link to register is in the show notes. Don't wait to get onto this one. Second, if you're thinking about a trip to Israel, Greece, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, or anywhere else in the Middle East, reach out to Uncharted Adventures. Josh and Tommy and their team are doing things that, frankly, no one else is doing. And third, go subscribe to Josh's podcast, No Longer Nomads. Incredible guests, great conversations, and content worth your time. Let me pray for you. God, of all the things that we get to do, we get to experience the fact that through science, history, and all sorts of artifacts that you left behind, we get to discover you. Thank you for the conversation that we had today. We want to discover you more as kingdom leaders. I pray your blessing on those who are listening, that they would implement building, risk with people, and faith for you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Hey, we'll see you next time on Leveraging Success.